the most important discipline is knowing when to walk away. Not every company starts strong and stays strong. Maybe management stumbles, maybe their market changes, maybe their growth story runs out. The earnings revisions reflect this, often before the price does. Too many investors hold on to a name because maybe they liked it once. But portfolios, like classrooms, they're not museums, right? They're active, evolving places where performance actually matters. And it matters every day. And when a company is no longer earning its place, we simply move on effectively and decisively. In fact, the sell discipline, removing companies that are slipping, is often more impactful to long-term success than picking the right companies to begin with. Now, why is that? Because in a 15-stock portfolio, each holding matters. A single underperformer can act to drag down the entire group. Imagine that you are choosing a new school for your child. And this school has 100 teachers on staff. Now, some of the world's most qualified educational analysts evaluate these teachers on a continuous basis. Now, these aren't the ordinary evaluators. They're elite experts in education, decades of classroom experience, administrative research experience. And they specialize in identifying which teachers are not only excelling right now, but are also actively getting better, and which teachers are not. So these analysts observe everything: how the teachers structure their lessons, how engaged the students are, how often they update their teaching techniques, and how they're committed to improving. They track even which teachers are taking advanced courses, perhaps at local universities in their spare time, who's collaborating on innovative projects, and conversely, who's falling behind or falling back on perhaps outdated lesson plans. They're not just looking at results, these analysts, but at effort, evolution, and intent. And they also interview students and colleagues. They study classroom results, and they use the data to understand how much a teacher is actually influencing student outcomes, not just test scores, but curiosity, confidence, creativity. The best teachers inspire, and the analysts are paying attention to which teachers are actually doing that every single day and which aren't. So assume at any given time that only about 15 of those 100 teachers are actually rated as truly exceptional, actively improving, delivering results, earning multiple nods of recognition from the analysts. And these are the teachers who are going the extra mile. They're not just showing up, but they're growing. They're committed to becoming better. And the analysts see it happening in real time. The other 85, well, they're not bad necessarily. They're just average. Some may have been excellent in the past, and some may eventually rise to excellence. But right now, they're just basically coasting. They're not demonstrating the same level of energy, the same level of improvement, or drive for that matter. And that's the key point. The results or the rankings, they're not static. The analysts don't crown someone a top 15 teacher for life. You have to earn it. And you can also lose it, on the other hand. So here's my question. Would you want your child to spend equal time with all of the 100 teachers, or with just the ones that are performing at their highest level today? It might seem obvious, right? You'd pick the best 15. But you'd like to keep a close watch, right? Because teachers are people too. Life happens. Even a great teacher may go through a rough patch at some point. Maybe they even stop pursuing their continuing education. Maybe they lose some of their drive. And conversely, some of the average teachers may start stepping it up, earning praise, investing in their skills, being noticed by other analysts. So you adopt this simple rule. If one of the teachers in the school gets two strong, independent recommendations in a row, they're in. If one of them receives a downgrade, the analysts say, not doing so great, they're out. And they're replaced with a new teacher who is showing some promise. Now, here's a system that ensures that your child is always being taught by the best current educators, not just the ones who used to be great, or even the ones that maybe become great someday in the future. And here's what's even more important to understand. It's not just about choosing the right teachers. It's about having the discipline to move on quickly from the wrong ones, right? Because what's the cost of your child sitting in a classroom run by a teacher who's, let's say they've just checked out? It's not neutral. It's probably negative. Your child may lose interest. They may fall behind. They may, or worse, develop bad habits. Keeping a poorly performing teacher is often more damaging than failing to find a great one, in the first place when you're in the selection process. So let's compare or translate that to investing. So as you all know, at Beck Bode, we follow a very similar approach to managing our portfolios. We don't own hundreds upon hundreds of individual companies. We handpick only the 15 companies currently showing the strongest signs of, future earnings growth as recognized by top tier institutional research. A company must have or must receive 2 or more earnings estimate revisions to qualify for the portfolio. Let me say that again, 2 earnings revisions upward to receive a recommendation. And now if a company gets just 1 downward revision, it's removed and therefore replaced. Now, that's not guesswork, neither is it speculation. It's a disciplined system built to maximize the long-term performance and reduce the exposure to companies that are actually losing momentum. And just like the school analogy, the most important discipline is knowing when to walk away. Not every company starts strong and stays strong. Maybe management stumbles, maybe their market changes, maybe their growth story runs out. The earnings revisions reflect this, often before the price does. Too many investors hold on to a name because maybe they liked it once, but portfolios, like classrooms, they're not museums, right? They're active, evolving places where performance actually matters, and it matters every day. And when a company is no longer earning its place, we simply move on effectively and decisively. In fact, the sell discipline, removing companies that are slipping, is often more impactful to long-term success than picking the right companies to begin with. Now, why is that? Because in a 15 stock portfolio, each holding matters. A single underperformer can act to drag down the entire group. That's why we act swiftly on the signs of negative momentum. Just like you would want your child removed from a declining classroom before it really starts affecting their education. So while the analysts' positive opinions, right, their positive opinions tell us who to consider, the revisions downward, the downgrades, they tell us who to remove. And that's where real discipline and long-term outperformance actually comes from. Too many advisors and firms just throw in the towel and don't even try. And average is fine to them, apparently. They're okay with a classroom or a school filled with teachers who perhaps stopped trying years ago. They're okay with a portfolio bloated with companies that many of which really haven't done anything meaningful in a long time, hoping somehow things will turn around. But average is just not our standard. Our standard is excellence and the discipline to stick to it. So here's my final question. If you wouldn't let your child spend equal time with every teacher at that school, why would you let your capital be equally exposed to every company out there? Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic, fantastic week. I'll see you next week.